Federica Battiato, and this is Buckingham News. Last term, Buckingham News reported on proposed plans to turn Aylesbury Vale District Council into a unitary authority. It's easy to see this as some kind of abstract argument between local politicians, but it will have a real impact on the services we all use. Now the gloves are off again in a new round of claim and counterclaim. Showing Tan looks at how the changes could affect our lives.
Blackpool, Bedford and Bristol, all unitary authorities, a peculiar and specific kind of local governance in the UK. And now Aylesbury Vale could be set to join this exclusive 50-something list of councils that have absolute control over their area, in a move that would see them separated from the rest of Buckinghamshire. A unitary authority is actually simpler than it sounds, consolidating the powers of a county council and a district council in a single authority. Put simply, this change could mean that Aylesbury Vale could go at it alone and become its own master, casting aside the rest of Buckinghamshire.
Any decision made in Aylesbury would have massive ramifications for the rest of the county. Things like funding, education, and transport planning would all fall under the remit of a newly reformed Bucks County Council, with the potential to dramatically reshape council taxation and social services for people living outside Aylesbury Vale.
Neil Blake, leader of AVDC, first proposed the idea in December.
What we have to make sure is that we have complete control over all the services that those residents enjoy, either from ourselves or from the present Bucks County Council. By having complete control over all the services, I believe we can make those services much more efficient, more cost effective, and the savings that I believe we can make by remodelling all those services will be for the benefit of the residents.
Not everyone agrees with Neil Blake's perspective, however.
But if you're going to spend what will be effectively about £300,000 worth of hard-earned taxpayers' money doing a business case, which is what Aylesbury Vale is proposing, then you should be looking at all of the options, not just simply looking at what works for one single part of Buckinghamshire on its own. Here we are, we're a few months before a general election. The government is absolutely clear that it's not interested in seeing reorganisation of local government into unitaries prior to the election. So why are we wasting taxpayers' money now on something the government says it's got its face turned firmly against?
Throughout this dispute, one thing seems to be lacking, and it's a need felt by both sides.
I think the lack of communication perhaps has led to us going along this unitary suggested route. And I believe the communication has been a problem up to now, and that going on, the communication will be between ourselves and the residents of Aylesbury Vale to show them that this is a much better route.
Well, there's almost no communication from the leader. I mean, we haven't heard anything from Aylesbury Vale District Council in connection with this right from the very beginning. There's been no written or verbal communication. And what's so sad is this is a time when we should be working together and putting the interests of residents first and not really indulging in sort of local petty politics between councils. The key thing is we're all elected and we're all here to serve our residents, not ourselves.
So it looks like 2015 could be a defining year for Buckinghamshire, for better or for worse, with Aylesbury Vale District Council the central player in what is one of the biggest council roles in recent history. We'll have to see if Martin Tett's Bucks County Council can resist the move. Shuayin Tan, Buckingham News.
Buckingham has come joint first of Elizabeth University with the least censorship. In an age where the debate around freedom of speech has never been more relevant, this has become a hot-button issue. Cameron Hawtrey has the story.
Spikes magazine recently released a list of universities ranked by freedom of speech. The investigation took into account restrictions placed on students by unions. Restrictions on some unis include banning the sale of provocative newspapers such as The Sun and Charlie Hebdo, music such as Blurred Lines by Robin Thicke, and controversial speakers.
By allowing our students to voice their opinions and talk about what they feel is important allows us to grow as a university and as a community. And I think it would be wrong for the student union to censor their views and their opinions on the university and any other matters that are important to us in the outside world and in here.
The universities came joint top of the rankings along with Winchester, London Met and Exeter.
Students' union allows students to, like I said before, talk about whatever they feel they must talk about. However, obviously there are certain things that we would look at should they come about. Luckily we haven't had anything major, and so we try and encourage students to talk about whatever they want to, and allow them to express their opinions.
Unlike other universities, students at the University of Buckingham can speak openly and without the fear of censorship. This is Cameron Hawtrey reporting for Buckingham News.
In an age where we are about to usher in computer-controlled cars, it's easy to forget that hundreds of deaths still happen on our roads. Despite advances in car safety technology, last year Buckinghamshire saw a sharp rise in road deaths. Holly Knows reports.
Around 5 deaths occur every day on Britain's roads, but generally that trend has been decreasing for the last 20 years across the country. Not so last year on Buckinghamshire's roads. However, with a shock increase in road deaths bucking the national trend. The stats released by Thames Valley Police show that 78 people died in 72 road traffic collisions across the Forces region, including 32 deaths in Bucks. This is an increase on 2013 when 57 people died in 55 collisions, with 22 of them in or around Buckingham.
But with big road renewal jobs, like the almost completed roundabout on the A421, are Buckinghamshire's roads really up to scratch?
We do have increasing demand on our roads, and therefore the circumstances surrounding each and every one of these incidences are investigated. However, I think the issue is about the awareness and the education.
For both drivers and pedestrians, negotiating Britain's roads safely and quickly will always be a main priority. Perhaps this increase in fatalities will spur the authorities into encouraging that all roads will be safer in the future. This is Holly Knowles reporting for Buckingham News.
In other news, the Wheatsheaf pub in Maids Moreton is now under new ownership. The new landlord, Bradley Weiss, who is originally from the area, has returned to his roots after a career in London. After losing his city job in 2012, Bradley retrained as a chef, then met his now fiancée Jo Farquhar, who has 20 years' experience as a pub landlord for Fullers. Plans are being drawn up to refurbish the ponds at Burton Park. A recent Buckingham Town Council report found that nearly 2,000 tons of silt would need to be removed from all 4 ponds. The Otter's Pond has sustained the brunt of the damage, with the otter sculptures cracked from rotting. The council is considering building a new safe paddling area for children in its place. And finally, the basketball court is due to open this month after an extensive renovation project took place. The court is currently available to use, but is still in the process of being made fit for outdoor games. The University of Buckingham has always ranked highly in the National Student Survey since first taking part in 2006. Last year, the university was knocked from a 95% student satisfaction rating to just 92% for the first time since 2010. Jodie Hutchings went to find out more.
Since 2005, the National Student Survey has allowed final year undergraduate students to give their opinions about their experience at university. Questions include whether or not students have found their course intellectually stimulating, or if students are satisfied with their student union.
One of the main reasons it's important is so that the university can understand how students feel about their degree programme, what works, what doesn't, where we can make improvements. We may feel we're doing something really well, and students might feel that we can do it slightly differently.
Last year, Buckingham received a 92% satisfaction rate from students, which is significantly lower than the 95% in 2010 and 98% in 2008. Why is it important for students to complete the National Student Survey?
It's very important. The survey obviously asks you a whole range of questions, and students can come and answer the questions and give the university an idea of where the university is doing well and where it's doing badly.
Are you confident Buckingham can improve its rankings?
It's very tough. I mean, we do quite well consistently, but it all comes down to the promotion and the amount of people that actually come down to do the survey.
Why do you think Buckingham has done consistently well?
I think even though it's a small university, a lot of students do take part in actively trying to improve the university and voicing their opinions.
The National Student Survey is now open, so to give your opinion, go to www.thestudentsurvey.com. This is Jodie Hutchings for Buckingham News.
And now, over to sports with Philip Joss.
Thanks, Federica. The university netball team has reformed with a new captain and a new spate of recruits. Henry Thompson went to meet her to discuss the team's plans for the year.
With the university sports fair having just passed, there was a surprising lack of interest in one of the university's more popular sports, netball. With the team on the verge of folding, a new captain was brought in to help boost interest. What are your intentions with the netball team this year?
To be honest, it's just to have a load of fun. Last year I think a lot of the girls were pressured into playing at a higher level than they were. So it's just to have fun and people to get into netball. If you haven't played for a couple of years, get back into it and see how people get on, and if they want to go into competitive netball, we can sort that out.
How much interest have you gathered this year from students?
So far we've had about 2 teams, so that's 14 people, considering that last term we had about 6, and they weren't constant players, they'd only turn up every other week.
Why do you think there wasn't much interest to begin with?
Towards the end of the term, people started dropping out, either due to work commitments or not agreeing with our coach because she's a bit demanding for less experienced players.
Netball practices were held at the Swan Leisure Centre, but due to the current situation, the centre has not been booked as of yet, leaving the team without a place to practice. The captain is confident that as more students become aware of netball and its need for players, the amount of memberships will rise. It may be a while for the netball team to return to its normal popularity, but what they have now looks promising. This is Harry Thompson, Buckingham News.
For the second week in a row, the university's football matches have been called off. How does this affect the players? We sent Charlie Parry down to find out.
For the second time in as many weeks, the university's football team has had to cancel their matches due to inclement weather.
Is there anything the club can do to help prevent rescheduling in the future?
It's one of those unfortunate things in Britain, kind of this time of year we're getting kind of snow and rain and things. The pitches do need kind of serious work.
Will the fitness of the players be affected by the extended break?
I hope not. The work that we've been doing in training over the last couple of weeks has kind of been quite heavily focused on the fitness aspect of things, trying to get the guys back into shape after the Christmas break.
Is there anything the club can do to help prevent rescheduling in the future? Are also hoping to add to their football team, with trials being held at the Swan Pool AstroTurf Field this Wednesday at 1 p.m.
Will the fitness of the players be affected by the extended break?
I hope not. The work that we've been doing in training over the last couple of weeks has kind of been quite heavily focused on the fitness aspect of things, trying to get the guys back into shape after the Christmas break. So I hope that the guys look after themselves throughout the week and do their own kind of personal exercises to keep themselves in the best possible shape.
The university has had to reschedule their game against Irish and Reserves 2 weeks in a row and are eager to get back onto the pitch. This is Charlie Parry for Buckingham News.
And now, back to the studio.
Astronomer Carl Sagan once said, "If you wish to make an apple pie from scratch, you must first invent the universe." Well, we already made the universe, and as it's National Bramley Apple Week, Elliot Beverley made a traditional apple pie.
The Bramley apple is a variety of apple found exclusively in the UK, and it is used for cooking purposes due to its bitter taste when raw. They are used primarily in apple strudels, crumbles, stewing, and of course, apple pies. For this recipe, you'll need 200 grams of plain flour, 100 grams of butter, 50 grams of caster sugar, 1 egg, 2 Bramley apples, 1 Braeburn apple, 1 teaspoon of ground cinnamon, a pinch of salt, a tablespoon of water, and a tablespoon of milk. Empty the flour into a mixing bowl, adding a pinch of salt and all of the butter. Mix the butter in and make a well in the centre of the mixture. Add the egg yolk and the water and work the liquids into the mixture until doughy. When the dough is complete, knead briefly and flatten out. Cover it with cling film and leave to chill. Meanwhile, for the filling, you'll need to peel, core and slice up the apples into small pieces. Put the pieces into a bowl, adding half of the sugar and all of the cinnamon. Mix together using your hands and place in the oven at 180 degrees C. Next, divide the dough up into 2 disc shapes, one slightly larger than the other, on a floured worktop. Using the larger disc, cover the base and sides of a pie dish and pile in the heated apple slices for the filling. Finally, place the other dough disc on top of the pie dish, ensuring that the whole dish is covered and that all the edges touch the sides of the pie. Sprinkle the remaining sugar on top, cut a small hole in the middle of the pie and leave to bake for 45 minutes at 180 degrees C. Apple pie goes really well with cream, ice cream or custard, so why not celebrate this great British fruit today? This is Elliot Beverley for Buckingham News.
Stories. They define our lives and have helped us understand the world since we first came out of the cave. This week is the 15th Annual National Storytelling Week, and where better to explore the art form than University of Buckingham's English department, home to some of history's greatest tales. D.D. Frank went off in search of a happily ever after.
From ancient legends about mythical creatures to this morning's political news, storytelling has remained an integral form of communication for thousands of years in many different ways. Today, we're surrounded by the many forms of storytelling. We have novels, movies, radio, computer games, and of course, the spoken word. But what is the importance of storytelling? I asked some of the university lecturers about what storytelling means to them and to share their favourite stories.
I have an Indian father, so storytelling to us is much more than just the telling of stories. If I ever ask for advice, for example, what he says is, have I told you the story about, and some story comes out from our family past. But in terms of my most favourite story of all time, which is an impossible question, but I'm going to have a go at answering it, it would have to be the Arabian Nights and Scheherazade. Perhaps I fancy myself as a bit of a Scheherazade, I don't know.
Now, I can remember a couple of very interesting stories. One was when Colonel Gaddafi surrounded the British embassy in Tripoli during the Libyan embassy siege in London, and they shot the policewoman. And Gaddafi repaid the police in London by storming the British embassy and then going on television saying he had discovered in the ambassador's shelf firearms.
And of course, it's not just lecturers that love stories.
They're really good and they're funny. He's really not kind to people. He's a menace that's not nice. He makes catapults for tomatoes.
Make sure that you celebrate the importance of storytelling this week. Read a book, watch a film, or even just share some gossip with your friends. This is Adidion Frank for Buckingham News.
Thank you for watching Buckingham News. We'll see you next week.